Welcome back. It's time to read our books now. We're reading God's Amazing Creatures by David Cloud, and we are reading Escape Underground. So, thought we'd read about the black kite this week. The black kite is another of the wonderful creatures that God made for His glory and man's pleasure. It is a medium-sized bird of prey that occupies a wide range of territory throughout the temperate and tropical parts of Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia, and Oceania. The name would suggest that it is black in color, but actually it is predominantly various shades of brown with dark brown or black feathers toward the edges of its wings, black beak, yellow legs, and black talons. There are some white markings under its wings and on its belly, and on its head and neck they tend to be paler than its body. It glides effortlessly on air thermals, searching for food with its excellent eyesight, soaring 1,000 feet or more above the ground. Its magnificent eyes set into a head that can swivel 180 degrees gives it full awareness of its environment. The black kite is an aerial acrobat, maneuvering quickly and easily in any direction. Soaring, wheeling, diving, it swoops down on its prey with legs lowered, grabbing it with its powerful talons. It eats fish, rodents, insects, reptiles, and other small creatures, as well as household refuse, which means trash, and carrion, which is dead animals. It likes to fly above garage dumps and along the edges of fires to catch escaping prey. The natives of Australia believed that the bird would start fires for this purpose by transporting burning branches and dropping them on dry brush. Black kites usually stay near bodies of water such as rivers, ponds, or lakes. They are gregarious birds and can form huge flocks. That just means they like to be with other ones. I have seen probably 100 or more soaring above dumps in Kathmandu, Nepal. They issue a fascinating shrill cry that ends with an extended warbling effect that varies considerably in speed and intensity. And I found the sound of it and thought you might like to listen. Here it is. Kind of an interesting, pretty sound, huh? European black kites generally migrate to Africa in the winter. The black kite is believed to be monogamous, perhaps even pairing for life. That means they just mate with one other bird for their whole life. They have a ritualized aerial courtship during which they perform a dangerous display known as grappling, where they lock their feet together in mid-air and begin spiraling toward the ground. The eggs are incubated by the female while the male feeds her. The chicks are cared for by both parents until the young are self-reliant. Everything about this beautiful creature shouts divine design, from its DNA and its reproductive system to its brain and its incredible flying feathers. Each feather is composed of more than 1 million individual parts, including interlocking barbs and barbules, made up of billions of cells and perfectly organized in a marvel of design. And here is a picture of it. Hope that was interesting to you. Was kind of to me. Here we go. We read up through chapter 4 last week, so here we go with chapter 5 in the book Escape Underground by Clint Kelly. We have to get away from here, Mara thought. Saul's men will come back, and when they do, they won't think twice about hurting us. Though it was a hot day, she felt chilled all over. Her pretty royal dreams were gone. The memory of the sharp rocks raining down on Stephen's head and body tormented her. Would the same thing happen to her parents and the others? How long would it take for rocks to finish off her mother and father? Mara tried to think of what to do. The kids of New Israel crowded around. Their little sisters and brothers cried. The harder she tried to quiet them, the louder they bawled. She looked into her brother's tear-streaked face. He rubbed his eyes with his fists and tried to pretend he hadn't been crying. I want Mom and Dad. I know, Nathan, I know, she murmured. putting a comforting arm around his shoulders. "I'm trying to think of something." She looked at Karis at the other end of the roof, trying to comfort the others. Their cries were getting steadily louder as the children began to realize what had happened. Soon they would be heard from the street. It was hopeless. Karis came over and frowned at Mara. "We aren't safe here," she said, stating the obvious. "I know that," Mara hissed. "So what's the plan?" Karis hissed right back. "You got us up here." "And I'll get us down," Mara insisted forcefully, though she didn't feel forceful. Getting down was the easy part. What then? She thought frantically, "What do I do now?" Hang on 1 second. What do I do now? The neighbors don't believe in Jesus. They never have liked us holding meetings in our house. They must know we're up here. They might turn us in. "Well," Karis demanded, "we can climb that giant olive tree in the Garden of Gethsemane and hide out in the branches." "Right," said Karis sarcastically, "and we can make like olives. They'll never guess we're really kids." "Yeah," Akbar joined in. "If we painted Obi a dark green-black, he could pass for the world's biggest olive." "You take that back or I'll give you an olive right between the eyes." Obadiah pulled a wicked-looking slingshot from his cloak and scanned the roof for suitable ammunition. "Would you two knock it off?" Mara yelled, forgetting to be quiet. "Obi, put that thing away. Can't you see the kids are scared enough as it is?" "You don't have a clue what we should do you?" Karis put in. "I thought the leader of New Israel knew everything." "She's trying, Karis," Sarah said, arms tight around her sniffling little sisters. "Please give her a chance." Mara smiled gratefully at Sarah and ignored Karis. "I've got it. We'll go to the Dead Sea and hide out in the caves. Nobody'll find us there." "Including our parents," Akbar snorted. "You can get lost in those caves." "It's a bad idea," Karis agreed. "They'll be watching the city gates. Besides, it's 15 miles to the Dead Sea. How far do you think we'll get with those?" She pointed to the short, chubby legs of Obadiah's 4-year-old sister. "About half a mile," sniffled Nathan. Mara gave her brother a "whose side are you on" look. "Do you have a better idea?" she asked Karis. "As a matter of fact, I do. Follow me." The new Israelites looked at Mara for guidance. She hesitated a moment. She didn't know what to do, and Karis seemed to have a plan. Surrendering her pride, she nodded. The children streamed down from the roof, Karis in the lead. She darted from doorway to doorway, and they darted after her in 2s and 3s like hesitant shadows. A woman yelled from a window, "Where are you going? Come back here!" They ran as if wild dogs snapped at their heels. They grabbed and pulled one another along, the older carrying the younger. When some stumbled, others picked them up. All ignored scraped knees and torn clothing. When Sarah started to fall behind with her little sisters, Obadiah and Akbar carried the little girls. If they saw a commotion or a group of men in the main street, the children squirted away down a side alley. At one turn they panicked when a ragged man pointed a bony finger their way and shouted, "Runaways! Somebody stop them!" But they were gone in an instant. If an alley looked too dark or dangerous, they stuck to the main street, trying to act like children at play as if nothing was wrong. But plenty was wrong, Mara knew. There was tension in the city. People hurried along and looked at each other with suspicion. There wasn't the usual market day laughter and excitement. Even the noisy beggars were silent. She half expected to see a wanted poster painted on the side of the fish market. "Reward for believers in Jesus, dead or alive." Even the stiff fish in the baskets they passed seemed to look at her with accusing eyes. It was only then that she noticed Karis was cupping a 3-inch clay lamp in one hand. A tiny flame flickered at its tip. "Hey, where'd you get that?" Mara demanded. "That's one of my mother's olive oil lamps. You stole it from my house." "We'll need light where we're going. Mine ran out of oil. Besides, it was a little hard to ask your permission in the middle of a war." Suddenly, Karis slipped down a narrow passage where the sunlight never penetrated. "Come on!" She motioned them to follow between the buildings. "It's this way." When they caught up with her, Karis was lifting 2 paving stones from the side of the passage. Before Mara could say a word, Karis's bottom half disappeared into the gap between the stones. "It's all right," she said. "I'll help you down." Mara comes first, then the little ones, then you bigger boys. It's wet down there, and you'll have to crawl a ways on your knees, but soon you'll be able to stand. Hand me the lamp once I'm down." She dropped from sight. The kids hung back, even the ones banned from New Israel. The non-members liked Karis, but they did not like going underground. "Come on, you guys," encouraged Mara shakily, determined not to quit. "She knows what she's doing. We've got to trust her. We're out of choices." With that, Mara followed Karis into the hole and dropped with a splash onto her hands and knees in 6 inches of water. The slow-moving water swished past her, smelling like the damp dirt of an open grave. She fought back a scream and wound her soggy veil around her neck to keep it up. Her pretty gown soaked up water like a sponge. She pulled it above her knees. "Thanks for trusting me," Karis's voice echoed in the tunnel. She set the lamp on a small ledge on the rock. Mara glared at her. "You'd better know what you're doing." Karis pointed in the direction of the moving water. "You'll want to go that way. The main tunnel's not far. You can stand up in there, and it's not as dark. Here, take the lamp." She handed Mara the light and reached up for Nathan, who insisted on not letting Mara out of his sight. He splashed down beside her. "Follow Mara," Karis instructed. "I'll send along the others." One by one, the other children dropped into the tunnel with a splash, many of them whimpering and shivering from fright and the shock of the cold water. But when Karis said crawl, they crawled. Mara sloshed forward into the darkness on one hand, her other hand holding the lamp safely above the water. The damp, musty smell of the cool air grew steadily stronger. She soon emerged into a taller and wider chamber where she could stand. The others popped from the side tunnel until they all stood in a tight circle around the comfort of the tiny flickering flame. "I'll take that," Karis said as she joined the group. Mara hesitated, then handed her the lamp. "That tunnel leads to the north cistern," Karis explained, pointing back the way they'd come. "This is the main tunnel. That way," she pointed downstream, "leads to the center of the business district out through the Pool of Siloam, where we met yesterday. That way," she pointed upstream, "goes under the city wall and out of Jerusalem. We'll go that way. There's a place on the way where everyone can get out of the water and dry out. Then we can figure out what to do next. And one more thing." Her words bounced off the walls like startled bats. "As long as you're in my world, we talk Greek, okay? I don't want any secrets down here." She looked right at Mara. No one said anything, but someone coughed, and they all jumped. The place gave Mara the creeps. She should never have let the dung-hole detective lead the new Israel to a watery grave. Her imagination began to conjure up images of the group wandering aimlessly through the tunnels for days, starving and forgotten. What had she been thinking? "Well?" Karis's one word echoed through the darkness with a dozen L's at the end. Mara bit back a scream. She began to vigorously wring the water out of her gown to hide her nervousness. She squeezed the soggy end of her pretty cream-colored veil until it looked like a big wad of muck. Were the tunnels what really bothered her, or was it that Karis was in control? "Okay," Mara said after a moment, "but you'd better be able to get us out of here." Something wet plopped onto her shoulder from the ceiling, and she jumped back, frantically trying to shake it off. "Look, I know my way around down here," Karis said, flicking off the clump of mud that had fallen on Mara's shoulder. "You've got to trust me." The hand holding the lamp shook and made the reflection on the tunnel wall jerk around. "I'm worried about my parents too, you know. We've got to work together if we want to help them. While you've been playing queen for a day, I've been making a map up here of all the tunnels," she said as she tapped her forehead. "The perfect escape. Keep the little kids quiet and let's get going." "Hey," Obadiah piped up in a shaky voice. "Who put you in charge?" Karis shrugged. "You were too chicken to ever come down here before, and most of you didn't want me for a friend, but now what? Now you're in trouble, and I'm all you've got. Let's be grateful one of us knows these tunnels." The little ones had stopped sniveling. They were too frightened now to cry. "Akbar, you take the lamp and the little kids and take the lead," Karis commanded. "You older kids stay in the back with me. I want you where I can see you." "You don't trust us?" Obadiah asked. "I don't trust you not to get lost," Karis said. "It looks like I'm responsible for keeping you alive, so would you please do as I ask?" They went forward, but nobody talked except Karis, who gave Akbar directions. The floor began to slant slightly upward. The water rushed against their feet and ankles, and the footing was slippery. The walls of the passage narrowed until it was barely the width of an adult. Husky Obadiah had to shuffle along sideways. Sarah, just ahead of Mara, started breathing hard. Mara reached out a hand and gave Sarah's elbow a comforting squeeze. She knew Sarah didn't like small spaces. Who really did? The lamp disappeared around a bend in the passage ahead, and those at the rear of the line were in almost total darkness. Mara's heart began beating faster and faster. The dark was where monsters lived. She rubbed against the slimy walls. It seemed like tons of rock were pressing in upon her. The farther they went, the sorrier she became that she had let Karis bring them all here. In the inky darkness, she could barely breathe. "Karis!" Akbar called back from the front of the line. The line stopped moving. "What?" Karis replied. "There's something here you should see." "It can wait. We're almost there." "The big chamber is only a little ways more. The tunnel widens out soon," Karis said. I think you better come look," Akbar called out shakily. "What is it?" "Come see." Karis sighed and squeezed past Mara and the others. Now Mara was the last in line. In the pitch dark. Dead last, she thought. She wished Karis hadn't left. There was comfort in knowing the other girl was behind her. Suddenly, something cold and clammy clamped itself around her neck from behind. Mara screamed. Chapter 6. "Shh!" Nathan's shaky voice sounded in her ear. "Why did you sneak up on me like that?" Mara yelped, finding her brother's ear and giving it a yank. "I thought you were ahead of me." "Ow! Let go of my ear. Can't you take a joke?" "A joke? I'll tell you a joke. You're a joke." Mara was furious. Her arms and legs felt like the water had swirled around her ankles. "Calm down, sis. The rabbis teach that a cool head and a sense of humor go together. You'll need that when you're a queen." Mara snorted. "Queens don't snort," said Nathan. "They hire servants to snort for them." She yanked his other ear. "Ow! Cut it out. Do you want me to go around with elephant ears because you couldn't control your yanking?" Mara giggled nervously. That she couldn't control. "What do you think they found up there?" Nathan asked. He didn't have to wait long for the answer. "Is everything okay back there?" Karis called out. "Fine," answered Mara. "It's just my stinky brother acting like his usual stinky self." "Well, screams aren't a good idea right now," Karis called out in a shaky voice. She hesitated, then added, "We don't seem to be the only ones down here." Mara's heart hammered. With Nathan shadowing her every step, she made her way to the head of the line. They had reached the big chamber just as Karis had promised. At one end was the tunnel they had just entered by. At the other end, the passage left the big chamber and immediately branched into 3 separate tunnels. The place where they joined formed a wide floor slanted to the sides like the bottom of a bowl. 2 of the tunnels produced slow streams of water. A small torrent rushed downhill toward them from the third, but the slanted sides rose above the water and formed a low shelf. As long as they stood on the shelf, they remained dry. Karis was bending over something on the dry part of the floor. Then she stood up and stepped back. The others looked. It was a long arrow, hand-drawn in white chalk, pointing to the right-hand chamber. "It's not yours, is it?" Mara questioned, her voice dry and barely more than a whisper. "You didn't draw it, did you?" Karis shook her head but didn't say anything. Nathan peered around Mara and gulped. His face went pale as if he were staring at a poisonous snake set to strike. "They're hunting for us." "They're not hunting for us," Karis tried to reassure him. "But if they find us, we're in big trouble, no matter why they're down here." "Look there," Akbar said as he pointed. A set of nearly dry footprints along the shelf disappeared into the darkness of the tunnel to the right, from which the water rushed. "Don't tell us that's the way we have to go," Sarah whispered. Karis nodded and held her finger to her lips in warning. "Looks like you've gotten us trapped underground with the enemy," Mara whispered furiously. Karis held the lamp high and looked Mara in the eye. "We don't even know it's them," she whispered. "But if it is Saul and his men, they don't know these tunnels like I know these tunnels. That's why they had to mark the main branch, so they wouldn't get lost." The other 2 tunnels' dead end had pools for collecting rainwater. Would you rather still be on that roof, scared as rabbits, waiting to be grabbed? No, I'd much rather be stuck in a dark, smelly underground tunnel, scared as rabbits, waiting to be grabbed. Mara shivered with fear and cold. Have a little faith and follow me, ordered Karis as she started back a short distance along the way they'd come. She dropped flat on her belly. There was a low opening at the bottom of the wall, easily missed in the dim light. Only a very little water leaked from it. She wriggled through. For a minute, the others heard nothing. Mara was about to turn around and go back when the lamp showed at the opening. A hand slid out of the wall and motioned for them to follow. Feeling as if she were going down, down, down to the center of the earth, Mara hesitated. Now that they were in the tunnels, they needed Karis to get them out, and they needed some place where they could hide without Saul's men stumbling over them. If they ever saw the sun again, Mara would tell the girl from Caesarea just what she thought of her getting them all buried alive. But for now, she knew she had no choice. Fuming, Mara helped the younger ones crawl after Karis. She tried to make a quiet game of it so they wouldn't be so afraid. She murmured, little fish, swimming up the stream. Slippery rocks, we're all on one team." Like minnows, the youngest kids flopped and wiggled one by one into the opening and vanished from sight. "I should have finished that grape fight while I had the chance," Obadiah grumbled as he made his tight way through the hole. "Shh," Mara shushed him, but quickly stopped when the echo in the tunnel sounded louder than the original shush. It took some shoving from the others, but Obadiah finally made it with a groan and a relieved, "Oh!" Sarah followed, then Akbar. When it was Nathan's turn, he put his mouth close to Mara's ear. "Queen Mara, promise me in your kingdom you'll have wide doors and high ceilings." Mara, the last through, crawled a short distance, then was helped out into a large square room with sides 60 feet high. The walls were slimy and crumbling, but thick enough that they could talk quietly without fear of attracting outside attention. A dim light filtered down from somewhere at the top of the walls. Karis walked over to 4 oil-soaked torches hung from the walls and lit them with the flame from the lamp. Then she blew out the little lamp to conserve oil. The smoky light from the torches was welcome, although it showed just how bare their hideout was. Nathan looked around and moaned. He pulled on Mara's arm. "This place isn't much better than a tomb." Karis frowned at them. This would not be a good time to complain about the hideout. You have to admit, we're out of sight. It's a forgotten rain storage well that's been sealed over at the top. If we keep our voices down, nobody will know we're in here. Mara gave Karis her best what now look. Karis turned her back. "Let's catch our breath. Give me time to think." She plopped herself down against the wall, released her hair from the pins that had kept it in the pitiful little bun that Mara disliked, and closed her eyes. Absent-mindedly, she chewed on a strand of hair. Mara found a partially dry spot and sat down back against the wall. Her gown was ruined. She thought of the hours her mother had put into the stitching. Her heart ached for home and her parents. She heard a stirring of wings high above and thought she saw a shadow cross in front of the weak beam of light. "Pigeons?" she asked hopefully. "Bats," Karis replied, not opening her eyes. Nathan clamped a hand tight over his sister's mouth. After what seemed like hours, the little one started crying quietly. "I'm hungry. I'm cold. I feel sick. Can you take me to my mama now? We're lost. When are we going to get out of here?" The grumbling continued. Mara watched Karis for signs of life, but the girl sat apart from the others in stony silence, eyes closed. Was she thinking or sleeping? Mara forced a cough, and another and a third. But Karis, if she was conscious, didn't budge an eyelash. "Maybe she's turned to salt," Nathan whispered. "Maybe your brain has turned to mush," Mara said. "My cloak sure has. Mother spent hours making this, and it only took minutes to ruin. Look at that." Nathan fingered the ragged edges of a large tear. "A hole you could drive a chariot through. Even if we make it out of here in one piece, I'm doomed." "With a capital D," Mara agreed. "We've got to do something." "What would you suggest, O wise one?" Nathan huffed. "All I know is that if you ever get to be the queen, you're going to have to lead better than this." The warning on Mara's face brought the conversation to a halt. Some children whimpered for their mothers, others slept. One of Sarah's little sisters pretended to hold a doll and sing to it. The silence lasted barely 5 minutes. "Mara?" What, Nathan? If you tell me the tutor rhyme, I'll tell you a joke. Mara sighed. I thought you learned serious, important things at synagogue school. Jokes are what I learned going to and from synagogue school. Please, I'm bored stiff. 2 flute tutors tooted on a teeter-tooter. Mara stopped him. Don't. You'll only mess it up like you always do. It goes like this. A tutor who tooted a flute tried to tutor 2 tutors to toot. Said the two to the tutor, it's harder to toot, or to tutor 2 tutors to toot. Nathan laughed, stifling his snickers with both hands. No matter how many times he heard the rhyme, it always made him smile. Mara felt pleased to take his mind off the situation, even if just for a moment. Your turn, she said warily. He wore a silly grin he always did when telling dumb jokes. Mara sighed. She was trapped. What belongs to you, but other people use it more than you do? I give up. Your name. That's not a joke, that's a riddle. Okay, here's one. Why do bees hum? I give up, why? Because they don't remember the words. The little kids moved closer. Nathan had an audience. You give up too quickly, he told his sister. This time you have to think about it. I thought you said you'd tell me a joke, as in one joke. It would have been just one if you'd answered it right. Are you listening? Mara sighed again, as only one who was waiting to be queen could. One more, she said, then you're done. Okay. A turtle, a lion, a camel, a bear, a pig, a frog, 2 mice, and a snake all got under one tent. How many got wet? Mara pretended to think about her answer a long time before saying, 9. Nathan rolled his eyes. Wrong. How many then? None. It wasn't raining. That wasn't funny. They thought it was. Nathan pointed to the 3 children about them who were giggling. Their combined ages add up to 8. What do you expect? Okay, I'll keep telling jokes until you find one you think is funny, Nathan said. Sorry, little brother. People don't live that long. But I will leave you with something funny just so you know what a real joke sounds like. Ready? Go ahead. Knock, knock. Who's there? Amana? Amana who? I'm on a bad mood, so no more stupid jokes. As Mara got up to go over and talk with Karis, she saw Nathan point to her and heard him whisper to the little kids loud enough for her to hear. When she's the queen, she'll have to pay people to laugh at her lame jokes. But when I'm rabbi, people will write down everything I say. At first, Mara just slid down beside Karis and said nothing. The minutes dragged on. Nathan soon ran out of jokes and the complaining started again. My leg hurts. My scarf is torn and I'll get in trouble. You are in trouble. I'm really hungry now. Why are we just sitting here doing nothing? I want to look for my parents. No, we should stay put and let our parents find us. They sure won't look for us here. What's that in the corner? Is it a rat? The children whined for someone to do something. Akbar grabbed Obadiah's slingshot, loaded it with a small hard bit of the crumbling wall, and started cautiously toward a small dark shape in the far corner. 10 feet away, he suddenly leaped forward and landed on the shape, stomping on it twice for good measure. He reached down, picked it up, and waved it in the air. One of Obadiah's sandals, he said disgustedly. Obi, Mara scolded. Why didn't you say so? Obadiah shrugged and grinned. I was going to, but we had to see how fearless Akbar the hunter would save us from my sandal. Akbar shot him a dirty look. Obadiah stuck out his hand for the slingshot. Akbar tossed it to him. Let's get out of the city and hide in one of the villages, he said angrily. I'm tired of this. Sarah objected. As long as we're right here, they don't know where we are. Mara nodded. I agree. It's probably still too dangerous to go out yet. But how will we know when it's safe to go out? Sarah asked. The whole time, Karis had kept her eyes closed and hadn't budged. But now she jumped to her feet and surprised Mara with a big smile. I know how we'll find out. How? Asked Mara. We'll spy. Chapter 7. And we're out of time, so we'll pick it up again next week. Hope you're enjoying your week, doing lots of schoolwork. We love you all and miss you all. Bye.